with AdWords or on Facebook, and they say, well, it doesn't bloody work.
So I will stop there. Hang on just a second.
I think it was something I turned my vibrate off.
Hello, welcome to the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. How can I help you? Hello.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 45 of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. John here alongside my business partner, good friend Jason. Hello mate.
Hi mate, how you doing?
And we are joined today by Mr. Alan Marriott from the Property Press. Hello mate, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Do you want to tell just the listeners a little bit about yourself, potted history of kind of how Alan Marriott, bit of a maverick, bit of a Kiwi, ends up here
in Plymouth,
in Plymouth, chatting to us guys at the moment.
Sure. Look, I'm actually Devonian, born and bred. Don't tell a lot of people that, but so keep it quiet. And when I finished my what apparently passed for education reasonably locally, went to Bristol very briefly because that was far enough away from Exeter at that particular point. But turned out that London was a better option, so I spent 7 years living in London. Stumbled into various jobs as you do. So I did quite a few jobs up there, quite a few I didn't last very long at. Eventually settled into recruitment as a professional recruitment up there in the temporary market as a longer term thing. Moved to New Zealand in 1988, which was about the time New Zealand was kind of waking up from being 30 years behind the UK. And
so how old were you at this point?
24, 25.
Wow.
Got taken over there and really enjoyed it. It was a great place to be. Carried on in recruitment. Worked later for with Yellow Pages, which I think was a pivotal time for me in doing what I do now. And then 6 years ago, decided to come back to the UK, having made a slight change in domestic arrangements at the time. And it seemed like a good place to be, and came back, had to find something to do, and developed what's become the Property Press and its associated businesses. But really, it's about putting things in letterboxes that makes people's businesses work, is what we do.
Okay, so what is the Property Press?
The Property Press is a property-led, free-to-the-door paper that covers Exeter and East Devon. It is utilised by estate agents as their sort of portable shop window. They don't expect to sell property out of it, but they do want to get their brand out there and do want to get their names in people's faces. That gives us the catalyst by which people then want to turn the paper over and look at what's going on, and therefore the usual suspects, the trades and the services that you want to have in there are there, and because of the reach, because of the delivery systems that we have, we get this thing in front of more people than any other print media around, the delivery being the key to it. And
circulation
is 56,000 copies.
Quite a number then?
It is quite a number. And so you compare it to the local papers there, and we are 2 or 3 or 4 times, depending on which one you're talking about, their print run, never mind circulation. So the actual delivery of this thing in the door and print run are completely different numbers, actually. Anyway, so look, it's all about stimulating demand for local businesses from local people and making that connection.
Yeah. So when did you launch the Property Press?
The Property Press is 3.5 years old.
Okay.
So we started with a leaflet distribution business, which became Leaflet Creation, get critiqued, recreate, and then distribute type business.
If you need anyone to do critique, we're
No, good. I'll keep that in mind, John. Thank you. And then, as a result of that, got to know a number of estate agents because they are primary targets, and with that sort of thing, they were not happy at the time with the local paper they had. Local papers, as in local newspapers, are failing. Because, I mean, how the hell can you do news in a paper of any sort these days, even on a local one? Asked if we could set up have a look, if I was to look at setting up a paper. Having got a bit of the Kiwi spirit, my instant answer was, yeah, of course. No problems, mate. I don't think any idea what you did to do a paper, but went off and figured it out. And with the much appreciated support of local estate agents, got the thing off the ground.
So, was this 2015 then you started the property press?
Yeah.
Cool.
April the 2nd.
2015, 21st century, but print media is dead, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Of course it isn't. Print media in the way that people use it is dying and dead. But actually what that does is opens up a big opportunity for people that know what to do with it or know how to use it. And I guess it's a little bit like coming across someone who's had a bad experience with AdWords or on Facebook, and they say, well, it doesn't bloody work.
So we'll stop there. Hang on just a second.
I think it was something I turned my vibrate off.
Hello, welcome to the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. How can I help you? Hello.
This is the lifestyle bit creeping in.
Yes, we're just recording a podcast now. You're actually being recorded.
One hour later.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
We really are.
Two hours later.
Okay. No worries. Bye. Bye. 21st century, but print media is dead, isn't it?
Well, a lot of people will tell you print media is dead, and I think it's absolutely wrong. The way people use print media and the way people think about print media is dead and dying. But it's no different, really, to me, to someone who's had a bad experience or doesn't know what they're doing with AdWords or with Facebook, and you can talk to them and they'll tell you that it doesn't work. Yeah. Well, okay, but it's not that that's not working. It's the way you use it that isn't working. And I would go as far as to say I think there's a lot of businesses now who miss out on what I consider to be traditional forms of being able to be in touch with their local people and their local market, because they don't see it as being the latest, sexiest, grandest, most technical thing.
Yeah.
Where a simple leaflet can produce a return of thousands of %.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think it's a question of print being dead. I think it's a question of having to adapt to how it gets used. And I've seen just so many examples of it being used really well to outstrip what competitors are doing.
Exactly. So can you give us some examples of those types of campaign?
Sure. I think I'll pick on, we talked a little while ago, and one of the ones I think got featured was a very simple local business. Well, the business isn't simple. It's a petrol station, but a simple situation. A local village petrol station, and for some reason, the storm culvert collapsed in the road some 70 or 80 metres beyond their little petrol station, which essentially meant that all the traffic now took a divert and didn't go past the local petrol station.
Okay, yeah.
And would buy their petrol elsewhere. It just about ruined them for a short time. Had a quick conversation with them when I happened to be there. We produced a leaflet. We had it. It was an A6 leaflet done on good quality, stiff paper. Very important point. Had it delivered around 850 homes a couple of times, and it just made the world of difference. They had queues of people. People just hadn't realised, and it's a very, very simple thing that happened. Out of that, people's loyalty and habit somewhat started to change. Their workshop business filled up, and it turned the whole thing from being potentially a fatal disaster in their business they had no control over to they're still going along nicely today.
What made you think that print media might be the best medium to get that message out over and above any other kind of media?
I think because you can put it on the doormat. and you can put it it's very targeted. It's the local homes, the local people. We are also in a rural Devon village where we just heard about electricity, to be honest. So it was kind of the appropriate one for that. And look, it was a very simple leaflet. It was nice and friendly. It's on the doormat, straightforward message, hits people between the eyes. And it's just a question of poking someone and go, look, just have a little think about this and see where you go. And it stimulated the business. So I think in that particular case, it was probably the only thing that was going to work and could be done very quickly and very effectively.
Excellent.
Yeah, you couldn't have done an AdWords campaign for that, could you, really?
I'm going to be searching for the garage. No, that's absolutely right. No, just twice, because obviously you can then apply that same principle, I guess, with the print media, using that for other businesses as well.
Yeah. And again, it absolutely gets applied. And I think the thing that people don't or underestimate in business is how much you can achieve by doing the right research prior to delivering your messages, getting your message right on the right product, and then how you can monitor and measure what goes on with that really quite easily to be able to put a complete end-to-end package. Mm-hmm. There is so much more that we do as a business than just do that to a letterbox. There's a lot of thinking that should go into it beforehand. If you get the thinking right, which isn't difficult for people that know what they're doing, but yeah, and the expertise is out there, it can be remarkably effective. The spend that most people have to go through on a good leaflet campaign to attract customers and start to generate lifetime customers is way lower than they think it's going to be. And that's in part because they haven't had success with it before, or they haven't used a delivery company that actually delivers before. So all the numbers they get out, even if they do their numbers, which, as we know, most people really don't do very well.
Obviously, as you said, that it's not the shiny new object either. It's not the digital stuff that everybody else is preaching about. You must do Facebook ads, you must do Google ads, you must do this, you must do that, you must do the other. It's not that either, which is a completely different way of looking at it, because, as you say, print is dead, and actually the newspapers are flagging, and all of these things which you would normally be traditional media is kind of like buried, and it's kind of like you've got to do all these new things now, and you've got to do LinkedIn stuff, and you've got to go out and get yourself out there online and things. But actually, that's kind of the reversal of what it actually needs to kind of. For some people, all of those things work. All of those things can do very well. All of those things are very important. But it's a question of picking what's going to work for you and your campaign and what you want to achieve. And to some extent, those spaces are getting very busy and very overcrowded and very distraction orientated. So if you now go to something which is landed on a doormat, now sure, most of those leaflets are going to finish up in a bin. Those are not the ones I'm interested in, though. If you design them right and get them kept put on the fridge, you're in business.
So what are some of the tactics you would use then to make sure that actually it ends up literally on my fridge next to the kids' pictures rather than in the shredder, in the recycling bin?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do, John, is make it too thick to go through your shredder.
Okay.
Right, so print on the best, heaviest quality paper you think you can afford to print on. I would suggest that 350 GSM is where you want to be at.
Okay.
It's essentially a card as opposed to paper.
Yeah.
There is a strange connection I think people make. If you've got a great product, why would you put it on rubbish paper and put it in the door?
Yeah, what sort of price difference are we talking here?
You're talking minimal price difference. So of course it's going to be slightly more, but the print isn't the issue around your leaflet campaign. That's not where you're going to spend your money, and that's not where you're going to lose your money either. So you're not talking a lot of difference. Put it on something that's nice quality is the first thing I would always do. The second thing to think about is a leaflet doesn't have a front and a back, and it's a big mistake. When you're designing a leaflet, it's got two fronts. However clever our delivery people are, they can't deliver them all the same way up. It's just not going to happen. So if you do the traditional front and back, and you've got the small print on the back and the big stuff on the front, it lands the wrong way up.
Yeah.
People just much more chance of it hitting the bin really quickly. And oddly enough, I would actually prefer to go to a smaller size, an A6, rather than an A5, and certainly an A4, because it's about that initial message. It's about getting the message across. The other thing that happens when you go to a small size is you have to get your headline right, and you have to get your offer right. You've only got one crack at this thing. I was listening in the car the other day to people talking about T-shirt logos. You know, when you could first start doing your own T-shirts, and getting your own logos on, and kind of think of it as a T-shirt logo. I mean, that's about the space you've got to work with to be able to make it happen and get your message across. And put it on the right paper, and then once you've got all that right, now let's target the right areas, and there's ways to do that.
Yeah. So how would you? Because you said earlier about doing the heavy lifting first.
Yeah.
You know, the clever stuff that you do before you actually send your campaign out. So what sort of things should people be doing there to actually make sure they're not just blindly targeting everyone? Because we've seen it time and time again where people say, right, I've got this brilliant campaign. I'm going to do a leaflet drop. I'm going to do this. Who's your target market? Oh, everyone, really.
Well, it is indeed, everyone, except that's not the case. So, look, there's a couple of different ways to approach it. So, if you're doing a single leaflet drop, if you've got one event you've got to promote and it's on one occasion, then you're stuck with one drop. I think potentially you've got to do something that much more clever to get the sort of response levels you want, because you've got one hit at this thing. Where leaflets work really, really well is when you think about it as a campaign.
Yeah.
And a campaign to me is several drops over a period of time.
Yeah. What
you want to do is to get to know your neighborhood and your neighborhood to get to know you. That's what's going on here.
Yes.
You're not going to get a massive response from the first drop around, but what we see happen over and over again is as you repeat those drops at an interval which is appropriate, and that might be a week, it might be a quarter, or most likely somewhere in the middle, you start to become the known face. We had a plumber that was new to the area who needed to build up his business. So rather than just do a 10,000 leaflet drop all over Exeter, we picked a particular area and we did 2,000, and we picked 2,000 houses and we dropped them 5 times at 3-week intervals. Well, within a very short period of time, he essentially was the plumber.
Yeah.
Because I don't need it. My tap's not dripping. There's not water poisoning now. I don't need a new bathroom today. But people have seen it. And it's about that familiarity thing. They become familiar with it, and it starts to drive the business. And then there's vans around, and it just grows from there.
It's being front of mind when people are able to buy. Because as you said, I don't need a plumber until I've got a leaky tap. So I'm not actually able to use your services until something goes wrong with my plumbing.
Yeah.
No comments from you, thank you. About my plumbing.
I thought we were having a discussion. So it's about maintaining that front and centre piece, and you're dead right. It's about when people are ready to buy. They now feel more comfortable because they're familiar with you. Let's go back to the estate agents. The reason the estate agents are in the property press is because only 3% of the market's moving at any one time. Yeah. The other 97% is who they want to talk to, because actually the homeowner doesn't even know when they're moving at this point.
Yeah.
But they're much more likely to move and to instruct an agent that they have some familiarity with.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same principle. If you target it correctly, you are much smarter to target an area of, in this example, 2,000 houses, and retain all of your work within 3 miles. Then you are to try and hit everything once.
Exactly. That's the thing. Everyone tries to think, well, I'll do this massive campaign, whereas actually what they need to be thinking about is, how do I get the best conversion rate?
Exactly. It's about targeting and frequency. One of the things that I know that we talked about recently is how you can figure out, if you're an existing business, how you can figure out where to go.
Yeah.
And one of the simplest things you can do is get a nice big street map, stick it up on the wall, get the addresses of your customers, put pins in the map.
Yeah.
And I've seen it done so many times, and people stand back and go, "Oh my God, I never realised."
They see the patterns emerging.
You see a cluster of where these customers are.
Yeah.
Now you can't do that from a spreadsheet.
No.
It's just not really the same. Get in the car, drive to that neighbourhood, have a look at the types of properties you're looking at. Now go find some like it, because I'll guarantee you that in other properties that look like those properties are more customers that look like your existing customers, and the offer you've made to them will appeal to them as well.
For those digital marketers listening, that's Facebook lookalike audiences, but in the real world.
Well, we thought of it way before they even thought of Facebook.
Exactly.
But it is, though, isn't it? It's exactly what it's about. Now, there's some very clever software that we've got access to and make use of that will help us to do all that. But if you haven't got that, just get in the car.
Yeah.
Go and have a look, because people tend to live next door to people like themselves, and therefore that's where your market's going to be. But just understand geographically where these people are.
Yeah. I love the idea of, let's say, cruising the streets, driving around, finding, what type of house do they live in? What cars on the driveway? Actually, it's a great story. So I'm in a mastermind group up in Birmingham, and there's a local MOT garage there. And they've discovered that leaflets are by far their most successful marketing pillar. But it never used to be, because when we first brought up the topic of leaflets with him, I tried that once.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. All right, okay. How many leaflets did you send? Well, one. So, but you're an MOT garage? Yes. So, well, there's a 1 in 12 chance that my MOT is due this month, and I need to actually see your leaflet before I've booked my MOT. Oh, okay. So he committed to doing a few more. So he said, I'll do 3 drops. All of a sudden, the conversion rate went up a little bit. So this is good. Now I'm going to actually tweak my leaflets a little bit. And what he now does is every Sunday morning, he goes out at 6 a.m. earlier in summer when it's light, and he will walk the streets of his target market, not all the streets, but he's identified affluent areas with BMWs and Mercedes and Lexuses on the driveway. And he's got a coat with several different pockets. And at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, most people are at home. And if they're at home, their car is on the driveway. So, oh, look, number 22 has a Lexus. Let me find my leaflet that says, we do MOTs for Lexuses, or Lexi, whatever the plural is. That guy's got a Merc with a Mercedes dealer that specialises in Mercedes MOTs. That guy's got a Beamer. We do MOTs for BMW. And he delivered to those houses every 6 weeks. So over the course of a year, he's delivering 8 times. Mm-hmm. Knowing that your MOT could be 11 months away, or it could be 11 weeks away, or it could be 2 weeks away. But when your MOT is due, at some point within 2 weeks of your MOT being due, you're going to get a leaflet through your door on a Sunday morning when no one else is leafleting, saying, we're the experts. And of course, I remember these guys. They've been dropping this through my letterbox every 6 weeks for the past 2 years.
Yep.
By far now, his best return on investment. He probably spends, I want to say about £2,000 a month getting these leaflets out there now. His return on investment is something like £30,000 a month back. And that's tracked to those leaflets. There's obviously offer codes on there as well. So it's phenomenal return. But that was a marketing pillar that didn't work.
Dismissed because it didn't work.
Yeah. And again, these things shouldn't be overlooked, because I think now it's almost the opposite now. These things this approach is becoming can be more and more effective because of everything else being so distraction orientated.
Yes.
I'll give you a quick example with the way he will respond to the property press, which is a property-led newspaper that arrives on your door and you're not moving house. So what we know from tracking phone numbers in there is that the vast majority of the response to our advertisers will happen on the Monday, the week after the paper has been delivered. Right? So what we know now is that if that's the case, it's telling us that people are browsing at this thing during the weekend. It arrives during the week, but they're browsing it during the weekend and making their decision about they need a painter or their driveway pressure washed or their fence built or whatever it might be. And the vast majority, or the biggest single chunk of their response, 38%, kicks in on Monday, and the spike of the calls goes up because the calls are tracked. Now, if you now understand how someone is using the media that you have your presence in and can now write to that, so the ads that we carry tend to think about people sitting in their armchair or at the breakfast table on a casual with a coffee and a boiled egg, whatever they're doing on a Sunday, and think about the mindset of the person who's responding to that. Write the ad accordingly. And those things are really important, and it flows through. Now, you've got to get the better thing delivered, and that can be another challenge. But if you can get all those pieces right, then I think you can put yourself in a different league.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
To most businesses.
Yeah, definitely. So you spent some time in New Zealand. You were trained by the Yellow Pages guys. They're doing not so well anymore.
No, they haven't kept up with it.
But I know you speak very highly of their training methods.
Yeah, I think for anybody who's been involved with Yellow Pages from a sales point of view, until Yellow Pages was no longer a thing, their sales training and their training around advertising is massively regarded worldwide. The Yellow Pages companies are not connected necessarily, but their training tends to be pretty much the same. And all of that was around helping businesses to understand the difference between stimulative advertising, which is going to get you to do something you haven't thought about doing, versus directed advertising, which is what the Yellow Pages was at the time, which is, I've got a problem, now I need directing to find the plumber to stop the water coming through the ceiling. So it was very much aimed at getting businesses to understand that. But the thing I most appreciated about Yellow Pages, although it was a high pressure, high expectation sales environment, was that the focus was on doing the numbers with the business to make sure wherever possible they got a massive return on what they were doing. And then all the things around headlines and making ads friendly by putting faces on and tracked phone numbers, even back in the late 80s, which you won't remember, John.
No,
do you?
No, not at all.
No,
I was probably at primary school then.
Yeah, so would work. And
Jason would.
Yeah, well, indeed. But we would know that because once in a while, I'm sure it never happened in the UK version. In the New Zealand directories, occasionally there would be a bit of a step up, and you'd leave somebody out.
Oh, wow. And
once you've printed 660,000 copies of the Auckland phone book,
you can't do a recall.
You ain't reprinting it for anything. And quite honestly, if you left a plumber or a fencing company or a funeral director, oddly, out, forget it.
Yeah.
Trying to replace the value of that advertising was virtually impossible to do. And although we would try, but it was just so hard to do.
Yeah.
But again, that is all about well-written ads that are in front of people when they need them. And this is the key. This is why a one-off drop or a one-off ad, unless it's some spectacular offer, is very unlikely to do very much.
Yeah.
If that's your target audience and that's who you need to get to, just keep talking to them because eventually they're going to need you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's being front of mind at all times. I mean, as a society, we've changed now. 20 years ago, your first port of call would have been the Yellow Pages, no matter what you needed. These days, I mean, it was famous back in the 80s that, Geoff Capes could rip one in half. I think I could probably give it a go now.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of difference between a leaflet and the Yellow Pages now, is there?
It's not really, no. And that poor little boy who wanted to get a kiss, he'd have no chance now when he's standing on the Yellow Pages. But again, that's the readership that's been an issue. It's not necessarily the advertising. We're always talking about market message media, aren't we? Well, actually, the market remains the same. The message remains the same. It's the media that actually just needs to be changed. And it perhaps more of a thought through multimedia campaign, because obviously you're not advocating just, let's go completely digital detox. You don't turn off your Facebook ads, turn off your Google ads, don't worry about Instagram. You don't need any of that. It's, just send some leaflets. That's not what you're saying here, is it?
No. No, but and there is a genuine hesitation here because sometimes actually that might be the answer.
Yeah.
But these things are going to work generally much better when they work in sync with each other.
Yes.
And you are capturing people from different angles and doing all the measurements that we know about you should be doing to work out where your best ROI is coming from and how you do that. And if you turn one of those things off over here, it could well impact negatively on something over here. Now, once you get to understand those connections, you're really getting places in terms of making stuff work. But I think most businesses these days are at the other end of that spectrum, in as much that they've got all this digital stuff happening, which is very important and really critical. But they're missing out on how well they could make that work because they are not talking to their local market.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very quick example, if I may, of an ad, a leaflet campaign, and an ad actually, both in the paper and a leaflet campaign we did recently. That was, again, for a business that wanted to capture the installation for new boilers. So they wanted to put a new boiler. And they were putting in Worcester boilers, and we had the head office people from Worcester Boilers come down along with their local business to come into the office and present us with the ad that we needed to run. So, and being Worcester, and they were making a contribution to that ad, as they often do, that was the ad we had to run. And that was what we had to do with the leaflet. So, and there wasn't any flexibility. And it was a nice ad. It was corporate. It was very nicely done. It was well designed, but it didn't work. And I'd like to say I knew it wouldn't work before I ran it, and I think I did.
Yeah, you probably had a gut feeling there,
but and after six weeks of running that thing, got a phone call from Matt at the company to say, look, this is just not. We literally had nothing.
Yeah.
So we took the same content, changed the headline, moved a couple of things around, put this photograph on it, made it look local. I'm Matt. When you call, you're going to get to see me.
Yeah.
Here's my phone number. Just took off. Same thing. Now, I Worcester don't get this particular broadcast because we didn't actually tell them we'd done that.
Okay.
But their sales have gone up, so I don't think they'll care.
I think they'll be happy,
So people overlook the impact that this can have by getting the message right.
So again, market message media, all we've done there is tweak the message. So the original market read the original message in the original media and did nothing. Then the original market read a new message in the original media. So the message was the only thing that was changed there. And all of a sudden that got an impact.
Yeah. And look, it doesn't work every time, but there are ways to get through this. There are numerous businesses that I work with on a regular basis that drive the vast majority of their new business from these types of methods. And that's also an important thing because they are capturing customers for life.
Yes.
Again, it's not about that first interaction or that first transaction. It's about the ones that follow.
Yes.
And it's about capturing those things and making it happen and communicating with your local market, getting business where you want to have business.
Yeah.
There's no point driving 35 miles when you can drive 3.
Yeah.
So that's what I get excited about. And being able to speak and talk and help businesses to better do that and to see the results that they get is in itself.
No, I love that because I can see that passion as soon as you're talking about local and some of the local businesses that you've impacted. I can see that passion,
Oh, well, you've got to have that to go along with getting up in the morning and going to work and doing this stuff exactly, because it's for me that's what makes it all worthwhile.
So obviously this show is called the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. So what does an ambitious lifestyle business look like for you?
It's a very interesting and potentially timely question, isn't it? As to where we're at. What it looks like, for me, it's about delivering what I want it to deliver for me.
Yeah.
And I started recently making a list of what those things are. It's not about 70 or 80 hours a week, and it's not about thrashing myself to death and not having the lifestyle and the life, things that I want to be able to do with Jackie. So it's about creating it, and there's a big opportunity to do that within the business right now, to be able to create what I want it to be, having done as we all work hard, but put in a number of hard yards to get to where we are now.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been thinking about recently is, it's really important that we've stayed on the field of play and stayed on the pitch, if you like.
Yeah.
Through some interesting and challenging times as we've been put through some things with the business recently, but stayed in there because we have this significant residual support for what we do as a business.
Yeah.
And staying in the game and staying on the pitch and being able to be there to make it happen. And sure, reshape it, redo it, rework it, make it happen again. Because print isn't going away in terms of what it does,
yeah.
And neither are all the other things that flow from that for businesses. So, for me, John, it really is a very opportune time to sit and reevaluate where that is. It's not playing golf. Well, I don't really play golf very well, but it's not playing golf or sitting around doing nothing. That's for sure.
No.
It's about being able to do more of what I would like to do, and that's where we kind of all want to get to.
Yeah, I think as we were talking last night about, whether it's half as much about what you don't want.
Yeah.
What am I currently doing in my life, in my job, whatever, that I don't want to be doing a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And it's creating that gap between, well, where am I now and where would I like to be? And I said, obviously, you're in a position now, you're able to do some good quality thinking, you get some good plans on the fire. But I think key to that is, you need that purpose. Let's say, buggering off to play 18 holes every day, that's not going to be you, is it?
Not for more than about 2 or 3 days. I do love my golf, but it ain't going to be following any football team around the country, especially my one, either.
No.
I have trouble following a St James Park, to be honest.
So does the rest of Exeter, I found.
We've done so well.
Yeah,
we've not talked about football once.
We've made it this far.
We are still not actually talking about football.
No, we're not. No, right, we're talking about Exeter the caddy.
So with my history and my geographical heritage, I've got 3 sons in New Zealand. I'm whizzing over there at Christmas time to go and see them for the first time in a little while, which will be great. And more of that sort of thing, I think, for me is going to.
Is that freedom to just say, do you know what, I fancy going back for 6 weeks, 3 months? Yeah.
So that's where I want to start to move things to, where. And it's all about options and choices, isn't it? Putting yourself in a position where there are options and choices. And we've had conversations about that recently.
Absolutely.
About the fact that actually when you sit and look at stuff, there are more choices than you necessarily appreciate, especially when you come up to a dead stop against something you think is going to be a real problem. But options and choices, think about it, stay on the field, get things moving, work it through, talk to people you know. And that's why I'm going to be doing a lot of that. So you may hear more from me, I'm afraid.
Oh, that'd be good. No, I'm always keen to hear more from you, mate. You know that.
Well, it's appreciated.
Yeah. So you've been one of our 1%ers for about 6 months now. How would you say that's helped you in your business?
I think we all recognise that being any kind of entrepreneur is a lonely flipping place at sometimes. It really can be. And having the confidence to be able to talk to people that you know have got an understanding of what's going on and are competent and able to assist and to throw ideas and be non-judgmental about what we're doing and to look at it in the cold light of day as opposed to in any other way and not sunk right up against it. It's been hugely valuable. So, and I think over the next 6 months, we talk about that question again, April, May time, I think it could be really interesting because there is out of all of this comes the opportunity to refocus where I'm going and what I want to be doing.
Absolutely.
And to move it forward. So it's kind of reality. And at the meeting last night was extremely valuable. Both from the opportunity to have some input, but more sitting back and finding out what other people are going on, because you realise actually you're not the only one going through some interesting times.
Exactly.
And that there is that support group and people around, and even on the Facebook, on occasion I post something on the Facebook group if I think it's going to be of any value, and I don't really know who's reading it and who's looking at it and who's getting value from it, but surely that's part of who we are as a breed, aren't we? We've got to help each other with our businesses.
Absolutely. We've got to fight the big boys, haven't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, Alan, always like to put our guests on the spot and ask if you've read anything decent recently.
Well, the thing I tend to do is listen to stuff more than physically sit there and read it. I guess it's the same thing. So the most recent, although it's not all that recent, is Profit First.
Mike Mikhailovich, is that?
Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the chap. certainly Mike, anyway.
Yeah.
But and that was really around how we were restructuring the business and where we were going with it, and the emphasis on relatively simple and straightforward methods of being able to make sure that you keep your business profitable and make sure that as the entrepreneur and as the founder of the business, you actually get paid.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a massive area that I did it for a long time. We just don't, everybody else gets paid.
Yeah.
Except me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of small businesses like that, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, well, there was a time when that has to change.
Yeah.
And that's a very valuable manual, I guess, instruction book as to how to set up your bank accounts and how to work it through, and it applies just as much to your own finances as the business.
It does, absolutely. I remember reading
make
that.
It easy. And one of the things I jotted down on my shopping list of what I do and don't want, which I started last night, is to have all the finances running on autopilot, and therefore financial stability and financial confidence.
Yeah. So the Profit First methodology is literally as money comes into the business account, a percentage of it goes into your profit account and into your tax account and into your VAT account. So actually when the VAT man comes calling, the funds are there. And actually when you come calling, you get paid because the money's already there, rather than, I actually had to use your profit, I'm afraid, to pay the VAT man because I used his money to pay the salary last week, because I used that money to pay the publisher. So before you know it, sorry, your money seems to have vanished. I don't know where that's gone.
Yeah, we can relate to that, unfortunately. So that's for me is it's a way of, again, it's a way of thinking, isn't it? It's a way of being able to think, and that's what I think this is about. This is about being able to think differently, not for the sake of being different, but because different is going to work better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I think that's about.
Definitely.
And making a big impact.
Cool. We're just about on time there, mate. Is there any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with, or?
I don't think there is. Well, actually, no, I will, because I think the point I would emphasise all the way through is that the letterbox is a massively powerful tool if it's used properly, in conjunction with everything else that you're doing.
Yep.
And it is underestimated, underutilised, and underperformed because people don't know what they're doing with it. It is not a question of stuffing something in the letterbox.
Yeah.
And the manner in which that is done, and having it folded up inside some other publication isn't going to make it work better. And there's an awful lot that can be done with it. And really happy to talk to people about how they can make that work geographically wherever they are.
Fantastic. We will obviously tag you in the Facebook post in our Facebook community, bigidea.co.uk/Facebook. How else can people get in touch with you if they want to?
They can get in touch with me through my mobile number, probably, which is the best way to go at the moment.
Do you want to give that on a public podcast?
I don't mind.
Go for it then.
07710 510 462 is the best way to get hold of me.
Calls are charged at £1.50 per minute.
Have we reduced that price? So for the time being, that's the best way to get me, and work it through from there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us, Alan. You've been an absolute legend.
I've enjoed it.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.